Hey guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you my Week 10 NFL Power Rankings. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Now, starting off with the Las Vegas Raiders at 32 with a 2-7 record going into their bye week and just came off a loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders, it's over. For them, it's over. This is basically just the end for the Las Vegas Raiders under Antonio Pierce. I believe he will get fired. He won't get fired during the season, but he'll definitely get fired by the end of the season. In the end, when it comes down to it, they don't got a quarterback. They don't got a decent offense. They got an okay offense. You can maybe put it in that scenario, but their defense is atrocious. This team needs to be rebuilt, and a new head coach needs to be hired. Because in the end, Antonio Pierce was a good interim head coach. He is not a good head coach. That is the issue, and to be honest, the Raiders aren't going to really have that much fun in the 2024 season, so they might as well look forward to 2025. Now, moving on to the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints, they're going up against the Falcons this week. They're 2-7 and just lost to the obviously the Carolina Panthers, and Dennis Allen has been fired. This is a crucial time for New Orleans because obviously, just like the Raiders, they ain't making the playoffs. They ain't going to be a good team this year. So there's no doubt they have not won a game since week 2. So this team is definitely going down the trash chute right now. But we never know. At least they could at least try something. But in my opinion, I honestly believe that they should start looking at 2025 because, first of all, 2-7 teams hardly make the playoffs, and if they do, they will probably get knocked out in the first round. So, in the end, I think that there's absolutely no chance for the Saints, and that we'll be seeing the New Orleans Saints as either the number 2, number 3, or even number 4 overall pick. Now, moving on to the New York Giants at 2-7. They are going to face off against the Panthers in Germany. So there's that. And they just came off a loss to the Washington Commanders. Not really unexpected, but at least the Giants put up a good fight, in my opinion. And in the end, the New York Giants, just like the Saints and Raiders, are not making the playoffs. There's no way. They might actually surpass the Dallas Cowboys to be the number 3 team, but that all depends on how Dallas plays. In the end, when it comes to New York, Brian Daboll, I'm okay with him, but he might get fired this year. I think he might, just might. But in the end, I think this team needs to be rebuilt and a new quarterback needs to be drafted. Not this year, but for the future. Right now, the Giants just start building their team for the future, and then when they get to a point where this is the team that will make it the Super Bowl, this will be the team that wins us a Super Bowl, or just a quarterback away, then you draft your quarterback. In the end, when it comes to the Giants, they need to build their team first before they go on a run, because for 2024, the Giants are not going anywhere. Now, moving on to the Miami Dolphins at 2-6, just came off a loss to the Bills and will take on the Rams on Monday night. Now, this team has not been good. They have not won a single game since Tua came back. And honestly, I believe that that's the fact that they started Tua too early. And also, they were facing the Bills. So, but they at least kept it close. That's the thing. But they started Tua too soon. And I believe that they should have at least waited a little bit. They should not have started him against the Cardinals. And honestly, they didn't do that. They decided to go with their guns and go ahead and start Tua after suffering a concussion like a few months ago. I don't know how long it was that he suffered that concussion. But still, it's really up for grabs. Miami could honestly go on a winning streak or on a losing streak. But right now, this team is probably going to lose on Monday night. But you never know. Maybe the Miami Dolphins surprise you and get their first win with Tua since he came back from injury. Now, up next, we got the Carolina Panthers, 2-7. Will take on the Giants in Germany. and just took a win from the New Orleans Saints. Honestly, the Panthers aren't making the playoffs, but this is the team that will kill every head coach from every team. Brian Dable, you better watch out because if you lose to the Panthers, there might be an opportunity for the Giants organization to actually fire you over there in Germany and tell you, hey, why don't you take a few beers over here in Germany and we'll take off in the plane and leave you behind while we hire a new head coach or an interim head coach for the time. So, yeah, it's going to be a very tough team. At least the Panthers to they're not going to be the first overall pick in my opinion anymore. Like they might be top 3, top 5, but when it comes to facing off against a team and potentially winning, to be honest, I'm saying the Panthers have a big chance on setting several teams that will then immediately fire their head coach because they've been on the hot seat for so long and then they all of a sudden lost to the Carolina Panthers. So, yeah, the Panthers, they're looking for glory and I think they're going to get it. Now, moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2-7, just took an L from the Philadelphia Eagles and will take on the Vikings at home. Now, when it comes to the Jaguars, yeah, they're not that good of a team, so it's not a very, very big whoop that they lost to the Eagles. And that same sentiment will come with the Vikings. And to be honest, the Jaguars, also not a playoff contender, so we're not seeing a team that'll make the playoffs anytime soon. But when it comes down to it, I think that the Jaguars have a big opportunity to not be a top 5 team in the draft. Instead, they'll be a top 10, top 15 pick. But in the end, when it really comes down to it, the Jaguars will 100%, just like the Panthers, really, really, really have to look at their situation. Although the Carolina Panthers do have Bryce Young, and maybe they just need to build a new team around him, and vice versa with Trevor Lawrence. You can kind of see the similarities, but Carolina's in a worse situation than Jacksonville. So when it comes down to it, I think Jacksonville's not going to have to rebuild as much. They got a good quarterback, and they got a decent team. All they have to do is rebuild that team or retool it to fit for the future. Now, on to the New England Patriots. 2-7, just took an L in overtime by the Tennessee Titans, and now we'll take on the Bears in Chicago. Now, when it comes to the New England Patriots, I'm very disappointed. 2-7. Honestly, Drake May has only won one game, if I'm not mistaken. He's only won one game, and I think that was against the New York Jets. In the end, it's still not a very good team that we're seeing. I think that the Patriots not only are a losing franchise this year, they're a top 5 draft pick this year. That's how bad I see them. And Drake May is not fixing the issue. Obviously, he's not going to do it in day one, obviously, but still, like you got a quarterback that you drafted and you hope he can be your guy for the future. But when it comes down to it, can you really trust Drake May, especially with this offensive line? I don't think so. Now, on to the Chicago Bears. And the Bears at 4-4 took an L from the Cardinals and will take on the Patriots at home. Now, is Chicago, they got a situation where, like, I feel like Caleb is at times performing how he should be and at times not performing as he should. So it's really like 50-50. It's up in the air for the number 1 overall pick. But honestly, I'm not seeing Chicago as a playoff team either. They're 4-4, yes, but they are one of the worst teams in that division. Like, I think the Packers are better. I think that the Lions are better, and so are the Vikings. When it comes to the Bears, they lost 9-29 to the Cardinals. That defense was atrocious that game. Tyreek Stevenson, obviously, last week against the Washington Commanders, did that play, celebrated too early, gave the game away, basically. And this week, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not feeling the Chicago Bears. So they're gonna have to, just like the other teams, some other teams, they're gonna have to retool, not rebuild, retool, and get Caleb Williams everything he needs on both offense and defense to make sure the Chicago Bears are playoff contenders. Now, when it comes to the Tennessee Titans, 2-6, they took a win in overtime over the Patriots and will take on the Chargers in Los Angeles. Now, when it comes to the Titans, obviously, Rudy's not the guy. Honestly, Will Levis might not even be the guy. So this team might actually be looking for not only a future franchise quarterback, they might be in the tanking for potentially Arch Manning in the future or Shedeur Sanders next year. Like, in the end, when it comes down to it, obviously we don't know much about Arch Manning other than the few games he's played for Texas. So let's eliminate him. And let's say they're going to draft a quarterback this year. Carson Beck and Shedeur Sanders. Like, those are the top two quarterbacks I can think of right now that they could draft. But in the end, when it comes down to it, even if they had those guys on the team, that doesn't make the Tennessee Titans playoff contender. They need to build a team first, and that's why I think they should actually start going for Arch Manning rather than going for Shedeur or Carson this year. They should really be looking after the quarterback after they build the team. And this year, they're not going to make the playoffs. And next year, they're probably not going to make the playoffs either. But maybe in 2026, this team is ready for a playoff push. Now, up next, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 4-5. Just took an L from the Chiefs in overtime. And they'll take on the 49ers at home. Now, when it comes to the Bucs, I'm going to say this honestly. The Buccaneers, they lost to the Chiefs, obviously. That was a given. But the fact that they took it into overtime, pretty good. But still not good enough, obviously. So when it comes down to it, the Buccaneers, they're not, like, they're in the middle of the pack. But, like, realistically, between them and Atlanta, who makes that AFC South champion. But in the end, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not the same team that Tom Brady led to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl with. This is the Baker Mayfield-led Buccaneers, who did make the playoffs last year and made a very good run out of it. But still, I'm not thinking that this team's going to be making playoff pushes like that anymore. But honestly, things could surprise you. In the end, 4-5, they're going up against the 49ers. That's a decent game for them to win. That is a trap game for the 49ers. They haven't been that good this year. So maybe they can squeeze out a win over the 49ers. Next, we got the Dallas Cowboys. 3-5, took down by the Falcons, and now will face on the Eagles. And honestly, the Cowboys are just not that team this year. Losing to the Falcons. Like, I know the Falcons are pretty good this year, but still, losing to the Falcons, only winning 3 games. You are the 3rd worst team in your division and probably the worst, depending on how New York plays this week and how you play against Philly. Because this is a game for Dallas to get back into it. But it all really comes down on how good Philly will perform against Dallas. When it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, they were definitely not ready. They should have actually built this team in the off season. They did not, and this is what happens. You don't build your team, this is exactly what happens. So, honestly, this is on you, Dallas. No one else but you. And honestly, you might actually be the worst team in the NFC East by the end of the season. Now, on to the Denver Broncos, 5-4. They just lost the Baltimore Ravens, and now will take on the Chiefs in, honestly, Kansas City. This is going to be a very tough game for Denver. They lost heavily to Baltimore, and they're probably going to lose, whether it's a close game or not. are going to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. There's no doubt, unless this is a trap game for the Chiefs, which is possible. But honestly, Bo Nix has been doing pretty well for the Denver Broncos. Not too bad of a season. They're doing well, better than I expected. So, yeah, I'm not really that high, but not that low for the Denver Broncos either. Like, they're middle of the pack. And when it comes down to it, maybe they'll be better in the upcoming season. And maybe they'll even start making the playoffs as a wild card, or who knows, maybe as the AFC West champions, but that is a very big stretch. Now, on to the Indianapolis Colts. 4-5, just took an L from the Vikings on Sunday night, and now will take on the Bills at home. This team, not doing too good. Too many turnovers, too many attempts at, too many fumbles in general, to be honest. And honestly, this team could have done a lot better against the Minnesota Vikings. This is a game, honestly, the Colts could have won. But, well, y'all know what happens here. The Indianapolis Colts just didn't have it in them to beat the Vikings. And honestly, Joe Flacco's a very good quarterback. And not like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson level. But like someone that you can come in and then lead a team to victory. But yeah, obviously that didn't happen this week. But Joe Flacco, still a little bit better than Anthony Richardson. And honestly, maybe we'll be seeing Anthony Richardson shipped out like Trey Lance was shipped out from San Francisco, but without any plan on replacing him by the Indianapolis Colts. Now on to the New York Jets, who are 3-6. Just took a W from the Houston Texans and will take on the Cardinals in Arizona. Now, when it comes to the New York Jets, well, let's just say that was an impressive win over Houston. But some things have to come to an end. I don't think the Jets will be able to beat Arizona, potentially. I mean, Arizona's been doing pretty well recently. And honestly, Aaron Rodgers, not that bad on Thursday night. And realistically, I think that he'll go from getting this win to now losing. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be seeing Aaron Rodgers lose every single game from this point on. I think he might get a few more wins, but not enough to make the playoffs. I think the Jets are still not a playoff contender this year. And yeah, the Jets defense is just not going to hold up against that Arizona offense. And now moving on to my Seattle Seahawks. And I have only one word for you. Disappointed. I am disappointed in our loss to the Los Angeles Rams in overtime. And now we're entering our bye week 4-5. This is horrific. We are most likely going to end up being the dead last in the division if we keep up this way. And if, obviously, DK Metcalf stays out. And so there's Noah Fant, because those two are crucial offensive key pieces, especially DK. And in the end, realistically, I didn't expect Seattle to make the playoffs this year. Still don't. But, I mean, you could have done a little bit better, Seattle. Come on. I think you could have done a little bit better against the LA Rams. But you're going to get a bye. And I think the next week after that, you get San Francisco. So, yeah, that's a game that we're definitely going to win. And if you didn't know, I just said that sarcastically. Now, on to the Los Angeles Rams, who honestly defeated my Seattle Seahawks in overtime and will take on the Miami Dolphins in Los Angeles. Now, when it comes to the LA Rams, I'm expecting, honestly, an okay season. Not a playoff season. Definitely not going to enter the playoffs, but definitely going to be there in the mix. And honestly, Matthew Stafford did a good job. He'll most likely continue doing a good job against Miami, so you never know. So in the end, I have these guys honestly doing a very good job. And honestly, we're going to be seeing the LA Rams probably end with a winning record, even if they don't make the playoffs. Well, Cleveland 2-7 just took an L from the LA Chargers and are going into their bye week. Now, honestly, I'm saying Cleveland, you're doing a okay job. Obviously, you still lost without Deshaun Watson, but honestly, this team has been looking better without Deshaun. Although this week was a little bit of a downturn, I still think that the Cleveland Browns could do a little bit better. So I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, we see the Cleveland Browns win a game after they come back from their bye week. Now on to the Los Angeles Chargers. 5-3 took a win against the Cleveland Browns. We'll take on the Titans at home. I'm gonna be honest. This team, pretty good. Playoff team, maybe. Now, it all comes down to how Justin Herbert will perform in the upcoming weeks. I think that they're going to start going into the season in the later part, obviously, now that we are in the later part, that we're going to be seeing a few struggles from the Chargers, maybe even a few losses from teams like the Titans. But I still think that they might actually make the playoffs as a wild card. They are a very good team under Jim Harbaugh, and to be honest, the Jim Harbaugh-led Los Angeles Chargers, even though they don't make the AFC Championship this year, I at least believe that the Chargers will make the divisional round and then get knocked out right away. Now, on to the Arizona Cardinals. 5-4, took down the Bears, will take on the Jets. Now, I'm going to be very honest with the Cardinals. They're doing pretty well. And honestly, if I'm not mistaken, they might actually be either second or number one in the NFC West. Not really sure right now at the moment, but I can guarantee you they're either second or first right now. And San Francisco, you better watch out for them because before it was Seattle. Now Seattle's gone down in the dumps while Arizona has went from being dead last to top of or potentially top of the division. So I think Arizona's done pretty well. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they might squeak it. You never know. But I think that there's still much to do with the Cardinals. I don't think they're ready for playoff contention, but still, you can't deny the fact that they could actually get into the playoffs. Now, moving on to the 4-5 Cincinnati Bengals, who just defeated the Las Vegas Raiders and will take on the Ravens on Thursday night. Now, when it comes down to the Bengals, I'm actually believing that the Cincinnati Bengals could actually, without a shadow of a doubt, this team will in fact have an upset game against the Baltimore Ravens. I think that we're going to be seeing something like that. Maybe, and if they don't, I think that that's really all she wrote for Cincinnati. Obviously, they're not out of the playoffs fully, but it's getting closer. And the closer the Cincinnati Bengals get to missing the playoffs is honestly with 2 losses. And I'm thinking that the Bengals could retool a little bit in the offseason, especially if they lose some guys. So maybe sell out some receivers so you can get some draft picks, you can get some new guys on the team. And to be honest, this team could actually do some things if, and only if, the Bengals are actually willing to market some of their receivers in the offseason. Like, for example, T. Higgins, maybe. Or something like that. Not Jamar Chase. But at least market some of them off. And then bring in some new guys under rookie contracts. And I'm thinking that the Bengals could actually do a lot better if they do so. Now, on to the Houston Texans at 6-3. Taking on the Lions on Sunday night and just took an L from the Jets. Now, this is going to be a tough game. Houston versus Detroit. Detroit is one of the top teams and could be even the best team in the National Football League. Honestly, this could be a toss-up. And I might think that the Detroit Lions actually squeeze out a win. I think they could actually do it. But, I mean, it is the Houston Texans, so you never know. In the end, I think Houston will have a very big opportunity. But if they lose here, their momentum will start going down the drain. And honestly, in the second year of CJ Stroud, they should do a lot better than this. Now on to the Atlanta Falcons, 6-3, defeated the Dallas Cowboys and will take on the New Orleans Saints, who now have a new head coach. I'm gonna be very honest. Do the Saints have a chance? No, they do not. I think the Falcons win that easily, and they continue building on that lead in the AFC South. They are the most likely winners of that division. So I'm honestly gonna say this: the Falcons have impressed this year, and Kirk Cousins, honestly, pretty good. And if he's gonna do this good and then eventually retire, maybe in a year or so, who knows? And then you get your rookie quarterback ready after watching Kirk Cousins play, and you might have your quarterback of the future in Michael Penix. But disregarding that, the Cowboys, pretty easy game. But it was a close game anyways. Still, now with a new head coach, I think that the Falcons will easily decimate the Saints. Now entering the top 10, we got the Minnesota Vikings, 6-2, just beat the Colts on Sunday night, and will take on the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Now, when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings, they've done pretty decently, but the Colts just shot themselves in the foot. So it's not like they did any favors to themselves. So I'm realistically going to say this. The Vikings, they may have won, but did they really win? But in the end, I still think the Vikings have a good chance of winning the NFC North. Although the contenders are between them and the Lions. And right now, the Lions are on a big upturn. Now on to the San Francisco 49ers, who are 4-4, second in the division. They just came off a bye, will take on the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Now when it comes to the 49ers, like I said, coming off a bye, they're 4-4, they're second in the division, Arizona's number 1. And yeah, I'm thinking, this is just a thought, San Francisco might actually not win the NFC West this year. Not saying that Arizona's going to win it either. It's basically a toss-up between them and the Rams. And yes, I am not counting the Seattle Seahawks in there because I don't think they would win the division, let alone make the playoffs. In the end, I think San Francisco, they got some injuries. Obviously, you got guys like Samuels, who is injury prone. You got also Brandon Ayuk, who's out for the year. They're getting back Christian McCaffrey potentially this week, so maybe that's a good thing. But in the end, San Francisco has a lot more to do. And yeah, they're going to have a lot of problems in this season. And for the remainder of the season, sorry. But yeah, they might actually not win the division this year. Now on to the Washington Commanders, 7-2, just beat the Giants and will take on the Steelers at home. Now when it comes to the Commanders, they have been doing excellent. They are leading the NFC East. They are just above the Philadelphia Eagles, who have had a bye. That's a fact. But still, even so, they're going up against a tough Steelers team. I think it's going to be Russell Wilson starting. But even so, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, this is going to be a tough game. And realistically, the Commanders under Jaden Daniels doing pretty good. Jaden Daniels might actually win the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and let alone the Rookie of the Year. Who knows? But in the end, like the Washington Commanders, they're doing pretty well, and I expect them to do even better pretty soon when it comes to, at the least, at least the division. Division-wise, they're going to continue to win, and maybe at the later part, they start squeezing out into getting some of those losses, and then they lose the division. But don't count them out. Now, moving on, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers, 6-2, coming off a bye, and are taking on the Commanders in Washington. Now, when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steelers, they're on a high. They're the number one team in the AFC North. And to be honest, Cleveland, forget about them. Cincinnati, potentially forget about them. And Baltimore, they are neck and neck with Baltimore. Obviously, Baltimore is still long away from even having a chance at winning the division. But still, don't count them out, because even so, the Steelers are going to try their best to get that division win and make the playoffs. But that doesn't mean that they will have playoff success. Because to be honest, even though they've had regular season success, I don't think that's going to come into the playoffs. Now, on to the Philadelphia Eagles, 6-2, just took a win from the Jaguars and will take on the Cowboys in Dallas. Now, when it comes to obviously we all know the Dallas Cowboys ain't winning that one. The Eagles, I mean, if they can't beat the Dallas Cowboys like all these other teams have, then there's something wrong with Philly. And they're just going to give a bigger advantage to the Commanders, who are currently leading the division by a win. That's all. So, a Commanders loss and a Eagles win, that gives the Eagles the division lead. And realistically, that is something that Philly would like the most. I think they got their win all set, but then you got the Commanders going up against the Steelers. Like, that's a game that realistically will decide who leads the NFC East. But that doesn't mean that the Eagles will win the NFC East. Now, moving on to the 6-3 Green Bay Packers, just took an L from the Detroit Lions and will take their first bye. They're not their first bye, their only bye, obviously. But yeah, the Green Bay Packers not really doing that well. 6-3. They're still behind. They still have a chance, obviously, at the division title. But realistically, Detroit managed to just, hey, this is our division now. You can go suck it. That's basically what the Lions said when they beat them back last week on Sunday. Now, when it comes to the Green Bay Packers, they're getting a bye, so they're going to get an extra week of work. They're going to have to work out their situation, but then they got to come back and start winning again, because if they don't, that's just going to increase their lead for the Detroit Lions if they manage to beat the Houston Texans this week. Now, moving on to the Buffalo Bills, taking down Miami in a close game, but then they're going to go up against the Colts. And I almost said they were going to lose to the Colts. What am I saying? They're not going to lose to the Colts, most likely. But if they do, that is going to be an impressive win by the Colts in Indy. So the 7-2 Bills, they've got, I think they got their division all wrapped up, almost completely. But you never know. Anything could happen. They're still 7-2. Anything could be. But in the end, I think the Bills have a very good chance at winning their division. And honestly, we might be seeing Josh Allen as the potential. It's not fully confirmed yet because of how the Chiefs have been playing, but potential number one seed. Now, entering the top three, we got the Baltimore Ravens at 6-3, just took down the Broncos in a massive win, and now we'll take on the Bengals on Thursday night. Now, this is going to be a tough game for the Ravens. They're going to need the win, and honestly, I think they can get the win, but might actually be a trap game for them, and they might actually lose, because this game is crucial since they are right now battling for that number one spot with Pittsburgh, who is currently, if I'm not mistaken, leading that division. In the end, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, they're going to do a very good job. And I think that the Baltimore Ravens might actually go ahead and win out when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday night. Now, on to the number two team. We got the Detroit Lions at 7-1. They just beat the Packers. Will take on the Texans on Sunday night. I'm going to be honest. We're going to be seeing a very good game coming from the Lions. And yeah, Detroit, you are going to get this win. And not only that, you are going to smoke. Just kidding. You're not going to smoke them, but you're going to get the win. I think that you might actually get the win. Continue your winning streak. Only one game behind the Kansas City Chiefs. And you might be seeing the Detroit Lions as the number 1 seed in the NFC. But that doesn't mean success. Because just because you're the number 1 seed doesn't mean you go to the playoffs and win every game. I think that they might actually fail in the NFC Championship once again. But that doesn't mean they can't also go to the Super Bowl and lose there. Now, we obviously knew Kansas City, number 1, 8-0, and they just beat Buccaneers in overtime, by the way. Still a very close game, and now they're going to go up against the Broncos at home. To be honest, Kansas City, they might have the opportunity to actually be undefeated this year. They might actually. But honestly, I don't think they are. I think they're going to lose at least one game in this season. At the minimum, 4 games. But yeah, Kansas City's pretty good. So, and even though they've gotten saved by the refs on multiple occasions, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs will 100% remain the number 1 team until further notice. Now, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Tweet me any video ideas. Also, tell me down in the comments below, who do you think should be higher and who do you think should be lower? Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.